those were added to the consent agenda. So with that, I would move
The earnings statements were already signed and I filed them.
Chairman, that was probably my mistake, because I spoke to Susan after the agenda was done, and she said they generally go on the third.
Oh, okay, all right, so we'll strike the earnings
Okay.
from that, so,
And then just the additional payroll.
Yeah.
And elections.
so
okay, moved and seconded, further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Next on the agenda, we're gonna be visiting about the request from the city of Meeteetse to use some of the American Rescue Funds to upgrade their water project. I think we might, is anyone from Meeteetse sitting out there right now? I don't see anyone. I don't know if they were coming over or not, but we might give them a few minutes just in case. But you've seen that they're requesting $600,000 for their upgrading their water project.
So where do we sit right now, balance wise?
Dossie has been
we
diligently working on that.
have committed to date for $1,532,071.
1.5.
Right, that does not include other things that we've discussed. Right, that's what we have
And
included.
that's as in this. And currently we have 2 claims.
We received half, so
Right.
I think we got 2.7. I think that's one came through to start with. Right.
And then the second half is arriving.
Quick question on what Meeteetse's asking for, basically matching funds. And I was under the impression that this does not qualify for matching funds.
That it has to actually purchase
Right.
product. And I thought they submitted. And that's what I'm hoping that they'll.
Well, I mean, what they need to do, yeah, I mean, we can spend it how we need to spend it to make it work if that's what we want to do, but we can't have it matching funds. And their application specifically says matching funds.
I think that may be, Mr. Tillman, one of the reasons they listed out their description on items, because looking at the items, they can do both sets of pipe, whatever, and that would be done. They could store the pipe till whenever the project is done. The other question I had is, knowing that this would be spent in the time frame that it has to be spent and that the project's completed, because we're required to do that. But if we can just pay for materials, that could happen.
Well, if the board so desires to give them all or part of it, we can specify that it be used for the purchase of materials
The time.
and ask that it be, that we be kept in the loop on the expenditures. Well, we're in the middle of the discussion. I was hoping someone from Meeteetse would. I told Angie it wasn't a requirement, but it might be. I don't see anyone up there wanting to get in.
Mr. Chairman, I think, we're getting into a lot of these purchases too are time sensitive in the amount of, in the idea that everything is going up. So I think if we, for the amount requested, I think we do have to put, for instance, a limit. They request 648 to 0972. That would be it. You would say that would be the
But
limit.
not to exceed.
But I think it would also, it would be nice to go outside and a lot of the stuff that we have been doing already has sort of been in-house as far as improving and helping out with the teaching. We keep talking about people moving out to the suburbs and moving out to taking up farmland to help out with the infrastructure of one of our urban areas. I think would show that, we want to keep people in town. This would be a good value for them. And for, Meeteetse's that they've been fighting these sewer and water issues for a long time. I think this would be a big step for them. So, I'm all for this amount, but You know, and it's like you said, it has to be for a project, for actual, something you can grab hold of, you know, actual invoice. I think the 648, 0972, they can spend that quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, just start looking at their list of preliminary costs on this material. There's almost like 4 million right there. So this is, we have to make it spend this real quick, but we can definitely, if we choose, put a stipulation here that it be spent on material before X date. And that date can really only, as long as it is before, is it December of 22, correct?
No, it has to be used by 26.
Six.
It's spent. You can put any date you want, that they spend, and that would coincide with being allocated, correct?
It has to be allocated by 2024, it has to be spent by 2026.
So you want to go that far out? I'm okay with it, as long as it. But it better be farther along by December 26th, than just buy material where it's not gonna happen.
Certainly.
Well, the other thing we have to consider too is that before they start spending this money on materials, that they have all of the funding in place and the project going forward. I don't want to have them go out and buy,
Understand.
you know, a couple $100,000 worth of pipe and have it sitting in their yard, and then the project not come to fruition. So that's just, you know,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, a question I had, I'm sorry we don't got representation from TCU this morning, but the question I have, is this an all or nothing thing?
that's what
Because, you know, one of the problems we're finding ourselves getting into, and the big question mark in this whole application process and the ARP money, of course, is what we're gonna do with our sewer ponds down there. And I know we have a difference of opinion as far as they're concerned, so that's something we need to hash out. But the way we're going right now, we're not gonna have enough money for all of this stuff. And so I, you know, especially with the teacher, I think it's a very worthwhile project. This is probably our only opportunity to ever get this done. But I would ask the question whether it's all or nothing.
Mr. Chairman. Real rough math, I mean, if we go ahead and we get our 5.6 with what we've already allocated, and then including this, we would still be left with 3.5 million. Which should cover I mean, as long as we didn't award anything else.
Well, yeah, and there's like the money that's been posted for the sheriff foundation. We got that to worry about. We haven't made a decision on that.
But I'm just saying, as of today, if we approve this, we still have approximately 3.5.
Well, yeah, I mean, I totally understand.
How many, do we know how much has been requested yet, Dacia Tally on that besides this one? From such, as the sheriff foundation,
other entities.
other entities?
So, do that real quick. We have the 1.5 million on the humidifier, or HVAC and humidifiers. So that's, it's not really been requested, I guess it's been discussed. Have 500,000, that's the sheriff's office. So we have 5 million sitting out there that we're discussing. HVAC, the lagoons, and the sheriff's department. So, yeah.
I mean, that's my concern.
I guess the same conversation comes up though, and I guess we need to know a little bit more from Public Works and the city of Cody, if we're talking about the lagoons where they said SRF monies and that type of things. Again, that's matching funds, or it could be. So we're gonna have to figure out all that, if that is part of a problem or if it's okay. And I don't know who's gonna answer that.
Well, I mean, you know, the sewer lagoons, we're gonna have to do something.
Right.
Whether we do the deal partnership or whether we expand it or close it, we gotta do something. If we keep it open, it's gonna cost us some money.
Well, we've got this one sitting in front of us right now, and their request, we can make a decision right now. We can get more information.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to find out if this is all or nothing thing. That's my big
And I think I asked Mary Yetter that when he was in front of us the other day, and I don't think I got a clear answer.
And the timeline project, you need to know if this is the final piece of the project or if they haven't even gone for the request for the other yet. That would answer your question.
Okay. Oh, we'll just keep
Put it off.
moving down, move it to the 19th. Tentatively plug it in there somewhere.
And ask Angie or somebody or somebody to come and answer these specific questions.
Yep. Okay. No, it's just a continued discussion. Kim out there? Oh, Kim's right there. No, he's not out there.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah, I was catching.
Next up,
I was listening.
you're listening.
I was listening.
Our county planning and zoning director, planner 2, can develop partial vacation and amended plat, ranch subdivision.
All right.
Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the applicant for this project is Randall Whites. And this is a partial vacation, it is an amended plat. And the property, this subdivision is in the GRP zoning district, the planning areas code power rule. We did receive an application from Mr. Watts on September 1st of this year, and the requested action is to vacate lot 1 and reconfigure lot 1 to create lot 101. And Mr. Chairman, there are a couple errors in our staff report and on the amended plat. So lot 101, which will be created, and lot 120, on the amended plat, it shows gross acres and net acres. There should be no difference between those, because the mistake is the difference between the gross and the net was counting that portion that was taken out by the highway, but that is outside of these lots. So the corrected numbers are the net acres. So for lot 101, that acreage will be 4.98 acres. And for lot 120, that correct acreage will be 5.74. So we will get those numbers corrected on the amended plat. So again, there should be no gross, there should be no net, there should just be an acres. So having said that, so lot 101, should this be approved, it will be 4.98 acres, and lot 120 will be 5.74 acres. In terms of history, the Eagle Nest Ranch subdivision that was originally approved back in 1985, it created a 50-lot major subdivision. There's been numerous amended plats that have changed, I assume, lot lines within the subdivision. And as I mentioned before, I referred to the amended plat that is in figure 1. And again, that will be corrected, Mr. Chairman. This is a partial vacation and amended plat. Partial vacation is allowed when we're talking about changing the lot configurations. When it is a partial vacation, an amended plat is required. An amended plat has to be approved by the county commissioners. It can or I guess it's optional whether or not that public hearing is required, and the planning director decided that a public hearing in this case is not required because there'll be no other lot owners that will be affected by this, that would be negatively affected by this or compromised. And in terms of notices, no public hearing was required, so none was done. As I mentioned, this is in the GRP zoning district. The new lot sizes proposed are consistent with that zoning district. In terms of neighboring land use, currently lot 1 and lot 2 of the subdivision are residential use. Surrounding uses are primarily residential to the south and east, which is most of this subdivision. Agricultural uses surround this subdivision to a great extent. In terms of site characteristics, current lot 1 and 2 contain portions of Eagle Nest Creek bed. Lot 20 is vacant, approximately 0.9 acre area that is relatively flat. A portion of lot 20 slopes down to the Eagle Nest Creek drainage and is in the flood area. Lot 1 has no family residences on it. It has 2 accessory storage buildings. The majority of lot 1 is also in the flood or overlay district. So as you know, there is a flood overlay district that goes through the subdivision. And lots 1 and 2 are in this flood overlay district. And we have some language addressing that on the bottom of page 7, Mr. Chairman. We've not received any public comments in regard to this change. The plat review, or this plat, was reviewed by the plat review committee on September 21st. There were a few minor changes and corrections identified. We did get a revised amendment plat on September 21st of this year. The process, we have that listed starting about the middle of page 8. There was the required fee that's been paid. Again, I mentioned our planning director determined the public hearing is not necessary. There is on this amended plat a certificate of dedication for the lot owners to sign. If this should be approved, of course, the landowner will have to record instruments showing new deeds and showing that the lot lines have been changed. This plat is entitled the amendment plat of Eagle Nest Ranch subdivision, lot 1 and lot 20. We have some findings of fact, Mr. Chairman, and we do have 3 conditions that were recommended. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Question for Kim? Awesome.
On a little bit of confusion, I guess, on my part, but I understood with an amended plat that usually the other landowners in the subdivision are notified that someone is requesting to amend the plat. You're saying in this case that's not necessary?
No, and since we didn't do the public hearing, that automatically notifies those within 660 feet. But no, to my knowledge, we don't have anything that says without a public hearing, there's nothing that says other lot owners must be notified. Commissioner Overfield, I know we've done that in the past, but I don't think we've done that with every amended plat.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion, question, entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
Second. Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Anyone want to say?
Steve is here. Yeah, he's the surveyor.
Okay. Well, then I think we can move right forward, we're right ahead with the next agenda item, which is Blue Sage Minor Subdivision Final Plat Review.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the applicants for this project are John and Gil Carter. This property is also in the GRP zoning district, the planning areas code and Pell rule. We did receive an application for this final plat on September 7th of this year. With that was accompanying the final plat. We did get a revised final plat on September 24th. You see that in figures 1 and 2. The requested action is approval. This will be a 3-lot minor subdivision. 1 lot will be 6.5 acres, 1 lot will be 6.26 acres, and 1 lot will be 5.56 acres, all for residential use. Should this subdivision be approved, there'll be an exempt parcel of just over 88.5 acres. The location of this proposed subdivision, that's shown in figure 3, it's approximately 10 miles northwest of Ralston, and it's just west of the intersection of County Road 22H and County Lane 9. And this property does have 2 addresses, and they're both from, well, one is from County Road 22 and one is from County Road 23. And you see in figure 3, it's this proposed subdivision is highlighted with the yellow lines. I mentioned this is in the GRP zoning district. These lot sizes as proposed are consistent with that zoning district. In terms of neighboring land use, that's shown in figure 4. This property is surrounded by some residential. It is surrounded to the east and west by the Carter Simple subdivision. Also, there's some ag lands in the area. In terms of site characteristics, a portion of this property is currently vacant farmland. And you can see in figure 5 that the topography is relatively low. This property is not within a mile of any municipality, so municipal review is not required. Public hearing is not required for final plat. We've not received any public comments since the sketch plan was heard by you on August 17th of this year. So the Board of County Commissioners reviewed the sketch plan on August 17th, approved the sketch plan, had some conditions, Mr. Chairman, and those 4 conditions are in our staff report at the top of page 8. I'll just mention 2. Number 2 was natural gas must be made adjacent to proposed lot 3. And that has happened, that has occurred. And we did share with you evidence. That was a letter from the natural gas provider. And number 3 was the final plat has a notice of the Wyoming Right to Farm and Ranch Act. That condition has also been met. The plat review committee looked at this on September 15th. There were some changes and corrections identified. We did get a corrected version of this final plat on September 24th. Of course, you had a chance to see that. Again, it's figures 1 and 2. So the submissions for final plat review, middle of page 8, all those have been met. I will mention that a subdivision improvements agreement was not required. Bottom of page 8, we just have a paragraph talking about final plat review. We have some findings that we've identified, and we recommend approval of this final plat with just that one condition. I can answer any questions you have.
I think there was one other question, and maybe you answered, is that they paid the irrigation district the application fees.
Yes,
That been
they
satisfied?
have, and that has all been approved.
Okay.
Yeah, we did receive a notice from the irrigation district.
Okay. Any question for Kim? Discussion? Commissioner Deal.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve third stage minor subdivision 4 as written.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Jump right into the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the next final plat is also for a minor subdivision. This is Golden Willow. This is final plat review. The applicants are again John and Gail Carter. Also in the GRP zoning district and also in the Cody Powell rural planning area. We received an application for this final plat on September 7th. Along with the final plat, then we did receive a revised final plat on September 27th of this year. This should this be approved, it will be for a 1 lot. It is a minor because the total tract of record included, I believe, the Carter Simple subdivision lot, which made this a minor. But should this be approved, it will be 1 lot, and that lot size is 4.27 acres. And this subdivision, and Mr. Chairman, you saw this final plat is in figure 1 and 2. The location is shown in figure 3. This location is approximately 10 miles northwest of Ralston, southeast of the intersection of County Road 22H and County Lane 9. This parcel does have an address. That address is 909 Road 22.5 Powell. And you can see the location in figure 3. In terms of zoning district, I did mention it's a GRP. This proposed lot size is consistent with that GRP zoning district. In terms of neighboring land uses, that is shown in figure 4. This 1 lot is surrounded, immediately surrounded or adjacent to ag land. There are some residential use subdivisions to the north and northwest. In terms of topography, you can see in figure 5 that this proposed lot is also on land that is relatively flat. This property is not within a mile of any municipality, so that review is not required. Public hearing notice is not required because this is the final plat. Again, no new public comments have been received for this subdivision prior to the Board of County Commissioners approving the sketch plan, which occurred on August 17th of this year. And on the top of page 8, we have the 3 conditions that the county commissioners had. I'll just mention number 2. That is that Wyoming Right to Farm and Ranch Act. That notice should be on the final plat. That condition has been met. Plat Review Committee looked at this final plat on September 15th of this year. There were some corrections identified. Those were made. And we did get the final plat back on September 27th, which of course was shared with you. We have in the middle of page 8, submissions for final plat. All those things have been met, including the final plat, supporting documents. Again, a subdivision improvements agreement is not required. We have a list of all the findings that we made, and excuse me, and we, the staff, recommend approval of this final plat, and we just recommend that one condition, Mr. Chairman. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for him?
Just just east of the Carter SS 32, you still have some empty land between the proposed Blue Sage and this new one. Is that going to stay as ag land? It's now surrounded by the 2 subdivisions?
Wait, remind me, Commissioner Mangle, which?
I'm looking at figure 3. We have the proposed Blue Sage, and then we have the 2 new ones, the SS 32.
The 2 Carter simple subdivisions.
And then there's some space between that. And I'm looking at figure 3 right now.
Yeah, so I believe that space between the 2, or the 3 lots of Blue Sage and then the Carter simple subdivision, I believe that is the remaining parcel that will be left after, well, you already approved Blue Sage, so that is the land that's left after Blue Sage has been approved.
Right, and just to the south of that.
And then, and south of that,
Yeah.
I assume that plans is to have that stay in ag.
Right.
Yeah, to my knowledge, that land northwest of this one lot. Yeah, my understanding is that will stay in ag land.
Did we get a motion? I'll make a motion to approve the Golden Willow Minor subdivision final plat, review 57.
Second. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
John appreciates that, appreciate it.
I know he will.
Yeah. He couldn't make it today, so I'm pinch hitting.
Gee, would you like some numbers?
Yes, I would love.
Hey. Snuck in. How are you doing?
Better than deserve.
Hey, Laura, tomorrow
Okay.
better with you than tonight. Is tomorrow better for you than get together tonight? Yeah, let's plan tomorrow, like, I'm booked up tonight, you go to booking. Go shoot for tomorrow.
Still running and gunning?
Yeah, well, he gave up, he's coming back. I had him on one Sunday afternoon late. Really nice bull, 170 yards, he couldn't get it in his scope.
Welcome to my world.
He got a nice antelope.
We saw you cruising up and down the road in Trail Creek from up above the ridge. We were hiking the ridge. We took pictures of your vehicle.
Now that we got the important stuff out of the way. Talking about hunting, Colleen, do you expect anyone else here for your discussion? Or do you want us to wait a little bit?
Well, Lauren's here, but I know there were gonna be some employees, I think, come and some that were on the incentive committee were planning on their
Okay.
meetings, so.
That's,
Okay, so we go back talking.
we can go back to talking about more stuff. So we will, in the words of,
Lee, I gotta ask you a question. You get in a fight with a bear or run into a tree?
well, you will completely understand what I'm talking about. I was trying to wrangle the herd in on a dude horse.
I understand.
So,
And you fell.
no, I went through trees.
Oh.
Dude horses generally don't like to do anything but be in,
Yeah.
but follow the horse in front of them. And when you're trying to ask them to perform, it can be,
Usually they look for a branch and like.
Take you off.
got my hat, got my face. So smoke 'em if you got them. We'll wait till 11 or close to it.
Can you mute the mic or anything?
Is anyone gonna say anything they don't want heard? We got Leo and CJ here. We're not gonna say anything. We shouldn't.
When these people, you
Usually
know,
I get his stuff back.
yeah, you got that whole.
I didn't know that it was, it might, maybe it might be detached.
I know our homework.
Yeah.
This meeting,
I figured it might be their guts.
So that would be my thought, but then they said they were gonna put it back on.
You use it like that.
Okay.
So like, well, that's what Scott was saying. That's what my question is, why didn't they just,
You got.
they made the decision they were gonna have flying colors anyway, from Cody. So why not just take him right then?
Yeah, the day before, you missed
Pretty
two,
short staffed here
and my gun was a little off,
But I,
about 10 inches high. I've never had that gun off in my life, and I packed it around myself for years. Anyway, I got it resighted back in.
You're
And went out.
extremely lucky.
Weston was, my son was on the,
Patriot.
he was on the call. And,
And we drive over that Ford, and gives us about 200 yards of them, and he's laying
he
down.
said the guy came up.
Got three of them.
That was the extent of his injury was.
And he didn't want to shoot in that far. So he says, well, I drive closer. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna jump up and all that. So he drives up about 100 yards.
They said that he rode down.
He turns me and go like this. We can rust out the window.
So
We
we
had
did
one
that,
window,
right
window, we're at the tall like this. And he won't stand up.
Yes, but we'll have
So I
some
had to get out,
resolutions too.
wave my hand, down my elbow.
Wait,
Take the sign out, read it up there, looked at it,
That's true.
shouted at the guy.
We'll just wait until we start getting what's in here.
Now, I wouldn't like it if I was laying out there in the middle of the meadow, telling myself for free women and somebody shot my hand. So, I felt very sorry for the animals.
So,
Oh, he got it down, cut it, ran over there 75 yards, sat there, fell down, I went up to cut him with my pistol, kill him. And he didn't get a bull, but he said he's coming back. I mean, they all are weird. A lot of single bulls, very few cows on trail, very few. In fact, when he was going to shoot, that was the biggest, only other cows I saw was 15 cows in town. All the rest of the bulls are off, so. And of course, they're still looking for cows, but you see one tonight, and you go back there the next morning, he might be 2 miles away.
Well, the one,
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, let's not have a drink.
I see up there, Jim, that
Bodine leaving tomorrow, and I got to walk in.
I planned
I
on-
went across the
Okay.
And he doesn't come talk to her mom. Did your boy get a vaccine?
one hell. It's gonna do it.
We better do it.
Oh, it's a how's it come this week?
Or is it? If you want to go.
Can't wait till one else.
Well,
I'm doing like this one next week.
Yeah, I gotta talk to, because I got my final vaccine shot at the end of April. I figure I'll get it like the first part of November, either the end of this month.
I'm gonna get money, we're going to Mexico in the next 2 weeks, so I guess before we go.
When are you going to Vegas?
Thursday.
Oh, you're going Thursday? Well, you're a busy boy.
Having fun.
That's what it's
Might as
all
well,
about,
might
right?
as well.
You retire, that's what it's all
Do it
about.
while you're able, right? Isn't that the rule?
Oh. Yeah, that could get in.
I thought it was gonna be in Buffalo.
Scheduled 2 years ago. That might be the. We're all arguing.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, just a minute.
Yeah.
Be in charge of that.
Um, Bart Cole.
Oh, okay.
And so we've got, arms and chairs. Thursday. Friday's all day. Oh, absolutely not. I'll get into some of those discussions. Be careful.
Would you still your play?
We'll see.
Oh, you play?
How you doing? Busy, obviously. Busy, screwing around, having fun traveling, mowing the grass, just like anything.
Keep you busy.
We try to get the facts out.
I drew one tag on the animal first day. Not enjoying tags. I got leftover.
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay, second row.
And now we.
Not hurt.
The village shop?
Straight up, bid proposal.
Yeah.
Did you know?
See if they.
Make a big difference, doesn't it?
Two bids for cat. 16 and then. Pretty.
And then we just use a copy back.
But yeah, we have to say.
Back up from the top.
Yeah,
Pushing
yeah,
down on it.
tell it. It makes you split on the tires.
Sure, yeah.
Stop a lot of the two blowers
Yeah.
and the other's kind of.
An old man.
Yes.
No,
Run
I wouldn't say there's a lot.
How do you push it?
It runs on. It's on the tracks, yeah, it's the tracks, yes, and hydrostatic wheels.
Well, which one?
We are going to get at least 1,300.
So the number of years left is 4, and now it's 7, 10.
That's the
It's just.
We talked about this.
Yeah, we did.
Tim was good.
Tim was never.
Never.
When I was campaigning,
They went over and shared it and went down with the
Buildings up
buildings there. So we're redoing that.
Now's the time to do it before we build another one, right? I assume that after you recap all that, we can recalculate those.
That's the idea that they don't work. We should know pretty quick. Second quarter, it would be like, this will be a while. See, but that's how we're having a little bit. We can extend out when we have. If you don't know, stay on our body. So it's.
Yeah, that was fast.
I know.
You know, it's-
I think that's what I get to see Bailey. Emailing. Jim and his wife, I said, "Look, you." We're still pretty.
That land trust meeting was
Still.
I don't know how we've done, or what's going. I'm watching the paper, they're having all sorts of issues up there. They're gonna say that they're gonna have a dramatic increase. Well, they've run out of space. We're into it, they turned down the request to expand.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we're probably close enough. Next up on the agenda is approved fiscal year 22 Park County Health Incentive Program and Park County Insurance Consultant. Two different things. Park County Clerk, Colleen Renner.
So we'll start with the health incentive. So last year, because of budget restraints or the feeling that there could be budget issues, the commissioners took away the $500 or declined the $500 HSA payout per employee. The Health and Safety and Wellness Committee would like to request that for the upcoming year, we put the HSA back. It costs the county about $78,000 if employees that have done it in the past continue to do it. It's to, the dollars go to their HSA to help recoup some of the costs on their high deductible insurance plan. In doing so, in catching, USI put together this little PowerPoint for you all to look at, and just in the dollars that can be saved by catching some of these things early, especially cancer. You can save from stage 1 to stage 4, $50,000 to $80,000 on one incident. So that one incident would more than recoup the cost of what the health incentive payout is.
But there's no way to track it whether it's worked or not.
Probably not. Yeah, I don't know how you would track something like that, because we don't even, when we do the blood test and the thing, we pay those, but we don't track each employee individually. It's the honor system basically on the health incentive, that you did the blood draw and that you're signing off that you did. And I guess if we really wanted to, we could track everybody. But as far as costs on savings with the different cancer things and stuff, that's like a chance you take, I guess. I mean, because we do have several employees that do have cancer right now, and it's a large cost. And could these have been caught earlier? There's really no way of knowing. It's just more of a help encourage our employees to save for their premium. We added this year on the health incentive program that they get points. We have a lot of employees that have not set up an HSA plan, except for the county money that goes into it, and some that have never set up deferred comp. So they get points. We're really encouraging people to save for themselves also.
And it wasn't a budget thing, it was just more of a, I'm not in favor of spending the money, just for asking people to do stuff they should do anyway.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm still at on the payout.
For sure. If I could, I agree with your last statement, and that's why I've never taken advantage of it, because I don't feel right about being paid to take care of myself. But I think in this circumstance, even though we can't track it, I do believe it's working.
And that's what research finds. Research finds that if you offer a health incentive plan to your employees, it does work in the end. It works out very well for you.
So anyway, with that being said, I'll go ahead and move that we approve this request to reinstate that program.
Second.
Moved and seconded, further discussion. All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, guys. I'm opposed. Have you voted with Charles?
Okay.
Okay, next up is the insurance consultant.
Okay, as you know, Park County put out an RFP for consultants. We received 6. We met as a committee. On that committee, would you like me to list? Or would you like me to list who served on that committee? Terry Call, Steve Penwell, Steve Polmeisel, Joe Torzon, Bobby Hinsey, Lauren Grosskopf, Dossie Overfield, and myself. We went through, here are the individual RFPs. We went through them as individuals and then met as a committee. I put together a brief spreadsheet showing what the costs would be. And after a lot of discussion and looking at the different costs for the different things, we would still like to recommend that Park County stay with USI Insurance Services. The first year their fee will be $40,000, and in 2023 it will go to $50,000, and then the lock-in.
So did you break down the total cost of the county with each, from each?
Yes, if you notice.
I see that, I see that.
So some we found in reading through some of the RFPs, we found they were not forthcoming with their percentage rates. An additional, so some of them, like one of them is $20,000 a year, but they don't come forth with their commissions on the standard carrier commissions on the stop loss. So as you see, we projected, we said what our stop losses were before. So on that 20,000, if we pay out stop loss of 882,000, like we did this past year, depending on whether they chose 3.5, 5, or 10%, they could get anywhere from $30,000 to $88,000 more on top of their yearly fee. So there were several, 2 plans that are that way, that they go according to what your stop losses are, what you spend over your stop loss premium type thing. And then our premiums for a year are $695,000. So again, are they wanting on the stop loss premiums, or are they wanting on the stop loss carryover, which several did not commit to either way. And so again, it's a guessing game. That fee could be anywhere from $24,000 to $69,000 above what they quoted for a yearly price. So when you look at all of that, additional costs, USI had none. So they get the flat $40,000 a year, and that's it. They don't get any commissions. They do get a few. If you read their RFP, they get like $128 off our life insurance, and that's it. And therefore, that's forthcoming in the RFP.
Were these interviewed at all?
No, we as a committee chose not to interview, but if the board would like us to interview, we'll take that. We'll take that as a recommendation, and that would be our next step. We just didn't want to spend the cost of interviewing these, because for most of them, if we require that they come here, we'll be paying the travel costs for them to come.
If they choose to travel, they interview. Did you ask them if they were gonna come in person?
No, we didn't even reach out to them yet for interview. I wanted to see how the board wanted to go.
I think with something like this, that it'd be interview worthy. If you have questions, or at least submit your questions on to them of explaining their RFP to you, but that's just me.
Well, Mr. Sean, I'm just curious, what kind of questions would you ask them? I mean, from what Colleen just described.
She said that it's a possibility if they do it this way, that this could come out.
Well, I mean, we know they're gonna have additional commissions, the other one with the exception of USI, it's just a matter of how much.
Yeah,
That's all.
no, that's fair enough. I'm one of 5.
So what's the committee's recommendation?
Committee's recommendation is that we stay with the USI consultants that we have now.
I got a couple questions for you real quick. How long have we been with USI?
We began with USI in 2009.
Okay, and what do they charge us all this year?
$30,000. And in, so in their plan came in at 50,000. I reached out to them and they said they would do 40,000 for the first year for 2022, starting January 1, 2022, going to 50,000 in 2023, which their proposal said, but you know, since we've had them for so long. And then they just again wanted a reminder to all the hard work and how much money they saved us on over the $700,000 they saved us on the one.
Okay, well now, when you first presented this to the board a number of months ago, and your recommendation was to stay with USI,
Yes,
and they were gonna renew at that point in time
At
at the
30,000.
30,000.
yes,
So by going out for bid,
Yep.
it cost us an additional $20,000.
correct.
I just want to make a note of that. So, you know, Colleen was arguing that day that we've got a good company with good solid people. They're willing to renew us at a given rate that we've been with them forever. And this stage was a bad idea to put it out for bid. That's the only point I'm making. So with that being said, I'll move that we approve USI.
Second.
Okay, moving second, and further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
No one was opposed. Everybody said aye. Thank you, Lauren, for coming.
Thanks for participating, Lauren.
For this
Yeah, he was
opportunity,
awesome.
Mr. Chairman.
He really was a lot of help. I mean, he's done this before. Thank you so much for stepping up and helping us get through all of
You know,
that.
a couple of the other ones they weren't ready to be staffed for a program very large.
No,
There was a couple that were pretty easy to pull out. But I think in defense, what Colleen had bid out, we asked for a net of commissions. And a couple of them chose not to do it that way because then you don't know what their commissions were. You know, and that was their choice to bid it that way, knowing that that was not in the RFP. You know, it's a big dollar.
and those commissions would wind up costing us.
You
Yes.
know, yeah. We're the beneficiary of those now because we bid it without any commissions.
Right. Next up, we have Brian Edwards, landfill manager, Grant Palmer, approval of award for the Park
Thanks,
County
Bobby.
landfill waste action.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'll kind of give you an overview and Greg will give you some details. So last week, or last initial meeting, we opened bids for a landfill waste compactor for our operation down at the Park County Regional Landfill. We reached out with bids to anybody that we know of that makes compactors, which includes like the Volvo, CMI, Bomag, Aljon, Batana, and CAT. We received two bids, one from Humdinger on Batana and one from T&D on CAT. We're talking to some of the others, Bomag, some of the others made larger class machines and didn't make the smaller class to compete with the two that we received. The Bomag did, their salesman ended up, he was sick the week of and put down with, I think, COVID, but, and so he just wasn't able to get it in. With that said, just talking generalities with the prices, you saw the base bid for the Tana. The H Series 260 was $567,500. The base bid for the CAT was $595,987.42. In our review, it appeared that the Tana did not include, we'd asked for I'll say this wrong, Webasto warm-up heater that was not included in the Tana price, but was in the CAT. So if you kind of weigh that together, the Tana on the base price is cheaper on the base price, even with that. One thing to consider, I think by state statute.
Your math is wrong. If you add the 5,500 into the base price, it is not overall cheaper, but with on the 5% off to the side.
Yeah, correct. That 5% I have not added.
Oh, okay.
Correct. You are right. I was going to get into that. So the good point, bro. the Wyoming preference, the state preference. So with that, I think by state statute, even though our dealer is out of Billings, is a Wyoming company, they've got a dealership in Casper, and with the Wyoming machinery, different dealers, but the way the dealership coverages work, they would still be considered to have that Wyoming preference. It's my understanding that that would be valid. With that said, it gets into some of the operating systems on the RDO, GPS systems. We would prefer to have that RDO system and talking to everybody else that's running these. So when you kind of settle those two numbers out between the CAT and the Tana, honestly, they're just neck and neck on the price. Because the Tanas was a little bit more pricey to 68, but that you have to take out, look at how much, Greg, you take off the CAT, the 20.
No, the CAT didn't include
That didn't
include the price,
So you
but
have to
we also got a bid from RDO and we installed the equipment and it was $70,000, so it was really pretty comparable to what we kind of priced out.
So in our opinion, I think on a pure price basis, they're very comparable. Different warranty issues that I think you gotta kind of weigh into it. We priced both of these with the 84-month, I think priced expected with an 84-month 7,500 all-inclusive warranty. On the Tana machine, because they don't make the engine, it's a Cummins engine. The engine warranty, which they don't really have any control of, but would be part of it, would be 5-year, 5,000 hours.
10,000.
Oh, 10,000 hours, 5 years, 10,000 hours. Gotcha. And then both of them include the powertrain to 10,000 hours. Anyway, so I guess that's the big picture of the numbers. In our opinion, you could go either way based on dollars. What we did is did a lot of due diligence. For your reference, the CAT 816, the CAT machines in that class, and really all the classes, is the go-to machine in 85, 90% of the landfills across the country. Been the norm for many, many years. Back when I got in the business in the late 80s, early 90s, that's the machines everybody had. So the Tanas started making their machines in North America. They're made in Finland. Or I say making machines, they're still made in Finland. They started marketing them in North America in 2011. Since that time, they've passed OMAG, Aljon, CMI, Volvo, and are now the number 2 compactor in the market. So they're really growing quickly. We reached out to several landfills that have them. One of the landfills is Sheridan landfill here in Wyoming that has the Tana. It's a bigger class machine. We had our operator run it. Everybody we talked to, including us, we're fans of CAT. We've been along, that's what I've been in the whole industry the whole time. And Greg included, CAT fans. CAT's a good piece of equipment. But we've been positively impressed with the Tana.
So I got a question on this company, Tana. Is this their main piece of equipment that they manufacture as compactors?
It is their, they make other things, but this is their main business, yes. Yeah. And the obvious thing to be, that we were nervous about and we really drilled into was the service, because that's the, CATs everywhere and getting parts and whatnot. And everybody we talked to, they've had, like the Sheridans had theirs 2 to 3 years. They've had an issue with the seed and something with the blade. Both times they were fixed promptly within 24 hours, had the parts. The response was excellent. And then we talked to another one where they've had it, ran it for 10, 11 years.
Yeah, so I think I just was fine at Dallas County, Iowa landfills. They've had a Tana compactor for excess of 10,000 hours probably now. They weren't traded for the world. They had very little problems with it. The service has been one of the shining stars that he would put by it. The operators, again, were all CAT people that all they've ever operated with CATs, but he said he would have a battle on his hands if they ever tried to change this particular machine out. That seems to be the message that's resonated across the board. You talk to a private company up in Missoula, Montana, Republic, that's they're actually running 2836 cats. If they didn't have a service, nationwide survey or a nationwide agreement with CAT, they would likely be running tons.
One more real quick thing, this is the important thing I want to get in. So the independent studies, and these guys are willing to put it in writing, that they can get a 10% at least better compaction range than anybody else. And I can tell you our whole reason for going into this is the compaction and the density, the tons of waste per cubic yard of airspace consumed. And so if that is doable, which they're willing to put it in writing and buy it back, nobody else willing to do that. And people we talked to in Sheridan acknowledged that they're seeing substantially better compaction than that alone.
The 10% is better than the competitors, any other
compactor in their class. If you're doing the same alternate daily cover, Sheridan was at 1,400 pounds to one up in Missoula. Now, of course, he's with cats, but he's with the big cats, 836. He was at 1,800. But if you go in this class, everybody that started, we got independent waste connections, big waste companies, they run their independent side by side and confirm that they have that. Mr. Sheldon.
Yeah, I'm just curious, and the only question I have, and the only concern I have is who's gonna work on these things?
So there's a couple things. The first thing I'll offer up is that, with CAT equipment we do have, it's still at times difficult to get CAT here to work on a piece of equipment. And then if it's not necessarily a warranty item, or, we've had cases in the past where we thought something was warranty and it turned out it wasn't, we get hit with a $1,300 bill for just travel expenses for them coming here. I don't get that it would ever be the case with the Tana. What Tana is doing, what the representatives of Humdinger are doing, is they've reached out to several local companies. I mentioned this morning, Woodward's and Boone's Machinery, to have as their kind of their initial response for small items, for something that needed to happen quickly. They would certify those in the operator and working on the equipment. And then as a backup, they would contract with someone like owning equipment or RDO type outfits to come and do any of the additional repair. The guy in Iowa said that they had a little problem with the joystick, the operation of it. They had a new one in within 24 hours. In fact, they not only did they supply one as a replacement, but they supplied another one for backup. And so what Tana provides is they provide a 20-foot connex full of parts that incorporate probably 50 to 60% of the parts that they anticipate ever needing.
Okay, so bottom line is, you guys doing your investigation, you're recommended town. Next question is, what are, this is a new purchase for piece of equipment, what is our expectation? We keep it 10,000 hours. Is that our rotation for buyback if we're hoping?
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
Yeah,
It's gonna depend on, it's our first contract we've had, running through the equivalent annual costs on the buyback. Whether we're running ahead or behind that on expenses, we're just gonna have to get in and see.
So part of mine,
but that was part of our decision is leaning towards the Tana was out of the buyback. You saw my equivalent annual cost comparison item. The Tana was significantly higher on what they get for a buyback. So if things aren't going well with the Tana, 2 years in, 3 years in, 5 years in, we do better.
And that, I guess where I read your email and whatnot, so if we're not happy right away, it is to the advantage to have the time. Now, if we go out to 10 years, it's kind of a wash. And looking at and not that I disagree, but I have trouble wrapping around with the economy is back to the same old stereotype of cats been there forever, they're dependable. They've only been here for 10 years. I mean, if we're gonna go 5 years out, what if they're not here? We're gambling $500,000 taxpayers' money on a company that may go big, that may not be here in 5 years. Did you find out anything on the guarantee buyback? Are we responsible for delivery?
It's FOB code. FOB code.
Yep. They will pick it up.
They'll pick it up here.
They will pick it up here. That's not what I read.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good.
And that's part of the, I think on year 5, that was in the,
the standard.
And the standard, and under the advisor was FOB coding, he confirmed that it was indeed FOB coding.
And I'll say too, we wrote the specs in a way, and we got a lot of help from landers and other people. That it's pretty heavy in our favor, everything in the way of like sampling kits to everything's pretty much included. And so what they included was their base standard warranty, but we confirmed a lot of things that are in that are in the 7,500.
We need to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
If we can.
Yeah, just real quick question, Lloyd brought it up, that's a really good question you had there. Is the dealership we're dealing with down in Texas, that only Tom dealership in the United States?
It is always they're exclusive dealer in North America.
Really?
And like I say, they've gone in 10 years from last to not even in North America to now they're number 2. So they're on a growth.
Okay, so that really shouldn't be a concern.
It's not a concern to me.
Is this, let me ask
And
you,
Hunting has been around a long time.
this dealership down there, is Tom the only people that they actually represent, or they?
They're the only waste compactors.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Just a real question on budget. I know it's an enterprise fund and all that, but what did you budget for a compactor? Are we close?
So, yeah, we're really close. We were in that, I think we were in that $550 to $600 range. I don't know that we're gonna buy all the equipment that we budgeted for this year.
We're kind of tossing around the dozer. We're within our budget overall. We're gonna do a few different things that we want to talk to you about.
Last question. Why do we need GPS?
This is a little different than the road bridge because this is something that would be used every hour, every day. It's on, at least the one, all of them have it, the one Sheridan has it. It's a couple things. It keeps you within where you're at in terms of your bottom, your horizontal, your on your lighter, where you're at with the lift. Keeps track of.
I mean, that big a landfill that we can't keep track of that is.
Well, part of it,
Not by operator.
what I like is probably the most significant thing there is keeping that lift size down to a measurable distance. And when you're talking about 14 inches, 12 inches versus 18 inches, that's something that's really hard to deal with trash in your. It's either your gas and your
measurable efficiency of going over the same area.
This will make a huge difference on
Everybody that we talk to, including independent people, it's pennies because it's the airspace. Because when you make your own studies, when you don't use it, when you do, when you have training, when you don't, and easily pay for it.
Is it transferable to the next machine?
Yes. We'll buy the base station.
shortly. Sure. On availability of both companies, same, we can get it like instantly?
No, we're looking at 25, approximately 25 weeks out.
25 weeks.
Yeah,
For both companies.
yeah, it'll be second quarter, we'll get it in this budget.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Tillman,
I'll move that we approve the bid from South.
I'll second that.
moved and seconded. Further discussion, there better not be.
Come on.
All those, it's discussion, okay.
I hope I'm wrong. I'm gonna oppose this because I feel it's too big a gamble with that much money for the taxpayers, but it is an enterprise fund. So I feel that you're going down the right track, but I would go with the cash, just from experience. It's just too much money to stick out on a company that don't know enough about, even though you've done your due diligence and I'm not trusting you.
Did you hear it back?
I will.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries. Last thing you asked, I'll be the first to say you told us.
There you go.
I hope it doesn't. I hope it's everything they say it is.
Thank you. So we're gonna move for
Thanks, guys.
interviews for our Park County Library Board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'll move reappointment.
Moving and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. You better speak up at meeting where you have it on. What? Speaking up at meeting. Yes. All right, next on the agenda, we're back on schedule, actually a little bit ahead, but Park County Treasurer Garth Foley, Vanguard Settlement and Disbursement.
Mr. Chairman and Board, just basically two things. As you know, we've been discussing a settlement and going through a bankruptcy lawsuit with Vanguard since 2017. I'm just going to do a quick overview. The original dispute was over a payment they had made the first half of their taxes back in 2017 for the 879. After several years and mediation and stuff, the bankruptcy courts decided that they would receive, that Vanguard would receive the 879 back. So in doing that and through the settlement, what Vanguard did is not pay their 2020 taxes. It was part of the settlement. So we will need to reverse the first half, which you see is the 879. The settlement we received through the mediation was $688,000. So that gave us a grand total of 1.568, basically to apply to their 2020 taxes, which was part of, like I said, the mediation. Their 2020 taxes due are the 1.2, as you can see on my spreadsheet, which gives us a settlement difference of $356,000 to the good. So that basically, out of all the mediation, that's what we received as our portion of the 17 taxes. So the question before you guys is if we have each entity pay their attorney fees, which you guys are allowed to through statute, that is a total of $130,000. And that's the question before you guys. Do we go ahead? And I sent you a spreadsheet according to the mills. There were two payments or two districts that were really involved. We did the spreadsheet. So you have a choice. You can either go ahead and pay the attorney fees out of the general fund, which has already been taken care of. We paid them along, or we can go ahead and charge those entities. And if we do that, then we have a partial payment of $226,000 to apply back to those entities. If you decide not to, charge them, then we have the 356. So that's the question before you guys is whether or not you
Run
want.
that by me again, if we decide to charge them, we're gonna.
If we charge all the entities
Their
out of the
equal share of the-
settlement,
yeah.
we'll have roughly $226,000 to apply back to a partial payment. If we do not charge the entities and we go ahead and the county pays those attorney fees, we would have roughly $356,000 to apply for a partial payment. Does that make sense, Lee?
Oh.
Okay. Okay, so through the mediation, they decided to give us a little bit of a settlement, which was the 688. So once we pay the 2020 taxes, that leaves us $356,000 to apply back to 17 as a partial payment. If we choose to pay the attorney fees through the county, that whole 356 will be applied to the entities as a partial payment. If we decide to charge each entity accordingly, that would give us $226,000 towards a partial payment.
So basically, what it amounts to is it's a wash either way, as far as I see it.
If we got it.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying we charge them, we either charge them the fees and disperse less, or we don't charge them the fees and disperse more.
Correct. It's totally up to you whether you want to charge those smaller entities and stuff for the attorney fees throughout all this.
But they're gonna get money back.
Correct.
One way or another.
Correct. They'll get the 226 if we take out the fees. It's totally your decision.
Brian, do you have anything to add?
Right.
Or
Mr. Chairman, just a second.
So
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, the statute says, prior to any payment, the county may deduct and credit to the county treasury any extraordinary costs, including out-of-county court costs and associated attorney's fees that the county incurred. So it's really, do you want to eat the attorney's fees or do you want to assess them the attorney's fees? That's what it really looks like. So that's, and it's not a shall assess, it's a may assess.
Which role is it?
I realize that their taxes are involved in this and the income that they get from the taxes are involved in this. Did they have any decision in the county pursuing this? Were they asked if they wanted us to go after this, or is this something the county made the decision?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I mean, we're basically the ones that are in charge of that. It would have been an impossibility to get agreements amongst all those people. We're charged with doing it and we are where we are.
But if we had not pursued it, they'd be getting nothing.
Very little.
Okay.
If anything.
Yeah, that's. Commissioner Tillman.
I'm gonna go ahead and make the motion for the sake of discussion here that we go ahead and correct word or basically charge them back to the attorney, but they're prorated share of the attorney fees. Because I mean, they are beneficiary of money, that's all.
Yeah. So they moved and seconded that all districts that are impacted get assessed their fair share of the attorney fees. Further discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I got a quick question, a little bit off the subject here with school districts. Because they're really not out anything, because they get made whole through the foundation program, regardless of what they get from local taxes. So how does that work? Is this just manna from heaven for them?
No, I think they would have, and Dossie might know more than I do, but my understanding, if they receive funding back, then this coming next year, they'll have to report it, and they would be, it would adjust, correct, Dossie?
All right.
Just a question, if I would our recreation district, they know about this, right? And they're gonna get a bill, is that what it could be? And then we'll explain in a letter to them saying you're gonna be reimbursed.
Basically, what I'll do is, and Brian's gonna help me, we'll document a letter explaining it, and I'll also let anybody come see me in person. It's a lot easier to explain all the details in person than it is trying to do this, but yes, we'll notify. And they're all aware of it because they've been having to write off these taxes, and they've kind of been waiting for a result. It's not a great result, but.
Okay, further discussion. All those in favor of assessing various districts their share of the attorney fees in the settlement? That's what the motion is. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks, Ryan.
Gary, thanks for all the work on that. I mean,
it works just starting
I mean,
now.
I've been involved since the beginning, I still don't understand it all.
So,
After all these years, we kind of.
Well, okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
well, I think like I said, they've been aware of what's been happening. And if we hadn't done anything, they would have got nothing. So, all right, next up. Perfect timing. Yeah. For discussion and selection of Park County Land Use Plan RFP Review Committee. So first thing is we need to discuss the amendment of the RFP because it says that this would be confidential.
Yes. But you have the ability in the RFP, it states that you may modify the RFP at any time. So.
Commissioner Oldfield.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we modify the RFP to remove the portion that states confidentiality on this review.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, and I was trying to find that, someone smarter than me might be able to find it, but what's a breakdown of the breakdown of our committee members?
Sorry, it's an RFP.
I know.
Yeah, sorry. Let me go.
Trying to find it.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Teal.
just interested,
is the key word that I have trouble with
Disinterested, yeah.
within this procurement policy of the committee being appointed. A disinterested department head or elected official, a disinterested county employee join the department, the planning zoning commissioner, and one basically, for better term, at large, which is not disinterested at large. Okay, fine. With that, opening discussion.
Go fire away.
I question, would the one with the most expertise in the RFP, in my opinion, for within the county would be Brian Edwards. Would he be, as public works, is he considered disinterested?
That's the $90,000 question is how do you define disinterested?
Exactly. So I feel this,
Yeah.
we can decide that, and I feel that he would not be interested because he would be the best to review an RFP, knows what's supposed to be in there, how it's, and that's all this committee is gonna do, is then give a recommendation to us. So moving forward with the selecting committee, I would like to see Brian Edwards be as department head, disinterested department head / elected official. That's my.
Very disinterested.
Before he says it, I was gonna say, I bet he'll tell you he's not interested.
What?
So, would you like to comment? You're muted. I am very disinterested.
Unfortunately, Brian, that doesn't help the case.
All right, Brian, now you're on.
Yeah, I was just joking. If I'd be happy to help if you think it's appropriate, but yeah, that's my standard comment. I can't get any more disinterested.
Well, if I could, Chairman, Mr. Edwards, then, as being the one that instigated or basically wrote the procurement policy, which is somewhat new in the last year and a half, can you give us a definition of disinterested employee or individual? Just define disinterested. To me, anyone that pays taxes is going to be a part of this, might have an interest in this land use plan.
We can come up with our.
Right.
Oh, can you hear me okay, guys? Hey, I guess what I think, Commissioner Teal, on that is, and this comes into play on vacating roads or whatever, the legal definition on disinterested. I don't stand to gain financially. I don't, have an interest or stake in it, financially or otherwise. That's how I guess I view, and in the interest of the procurement policy, that's how that was set up.
And I would go with that, because interest can be defined in two ways. Am I interested in it? Am I interested in what's going on outside? Yeah, I'm very interested in that. And interest can also be defined as a financial gain or some other type gain. So I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
So we got Brian Edwards on there. We need an employee.
My staff's not available.
But what about their boss?
They're already, well, I'm already on here.
Oh, that's right.
You can't count me twice.
Yeah, we can.
About Terry.
Okay. We can ask Terry, we can appoint him and he can't say anything.
Terry Hall for the assessor's office.
Oh, okay. Yeah, pretty good.
And we need a Commissioner Field.
Or the chair, it sounds like a chair thing.
I think, chair is a good chair is one that delegates. So
That I'm fine with it. If anybody else wants to do it, make it. We're gonna review the RFPs.
Yep.
One person I thought of, and I know we probably going to have to ask them,
twist their arm.
but somebody that came up, Dave Johnson, Stone Creek. He used to be, he was the contract officer for service for the Marcel. Right. I mean, he reviewed, that's what he did was RFPs.
So you're just talking about the public at large.
Public at large. Let's see if anybody else has.
Anyone else got any Housing,
Foster. Out.
Oh, Rebecca Burns.
Rebecca. I'd be good with Rebecca,
For different businesses and stuff, so.
Rebecca,
or,
Pep,
yeah.
she familiar with our updates.
Yeah, well, there-
Are you gonna send the request to Terry and Rebecca then, or do you want me to do that?
I would like you to do it, thank you very much. See, there's that chairman thing.
Tell you what, you're delegating.
Right, I'll delegate the hell out of this thing.
So that's four, if they all agree.
Well,
Joyce
me,
Fifth.
yeah,
So do it. We got-
Okay.
do I need to send an email to Brian Edwards, or has he been?
I think
I think he
he's
knows.
officially notified.
Unmute and speak it.
No, and then if either Terry or Rebecca,
Give me backups.
yeah, do you have any backups, any suggestions?
For at large.
At large and
And
county employee.
County employee, yeah, well, sorry, Colleen, and
Oh, we're right at
election,
redistricting,
okay,
yeah.
understood.
I mean, maybe.
But,
No.
Well,
Right.
Talk about this interest.
yeah,
Come up with some interesting comments.
yeah, that's true.
How about Pat?
You know, I'm pretty sure,
They're already
She's
going
kind
to
of
be,
double booked right now with us
What
and.
the-
I mean, technically, we could put Kim in there if we needed to, I guess.
if Terry called Cam, I guess we can ask Cam if he
Okay.
wants, if he would like to help. I mean, we're just reviewing the RFP. before
That's all
it
you're
goes out,
doing,
correct?
Review, that's all.
Okay, so maybe he could.
Right, it's not a long.
Yeah, but I look for Terry to say yes.
And then what about another at large?
Do we got another at-large recommendation?
What do you want to reach out to Dave?
Yeah.
Dave,
I haven't seen him in years, but
if he's not here, then we.
Yeah, there's a couple we can reach out to.
So I don't know either one of
I
those.
will, I can try to get hold of Dave.
I'll let you know if I hear different from Terry and Rebecca,
Okay,
and then we'll go from there.
If Dave's not available, we'll check with Doug Wheaton at Central Bank.
all right. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, what's that?
It's called Google
It's
now.
on here.
Next up, I would entertain a motion to go to executive session.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? approve final Park County Library contract with Kyle White Bowling. We have Library Director Karen Horner here and board member, are you chairman? Are you chairman? Matt Stewart of the Park County Library Board. Your
Center.
I know there's been a lot of work on this, go back and forth.
Yes,
So,
and I think we have something that we all agree on. For the library board voted to sign, if you guys agree. And I believe it's been through our county attorney, Brian Square. And therefore it's up to you guys to decide if it has what you want it.
okay. Discussion on it.
No, I think it's gone well. Like you say, it's been back and forth a few times. It was brought down a little bit from the initial proposals, but we figured out that that's what we could do and actually the answers that we wanted. This contract's should provide what we need to determine any type of remodel that we can do to deal with the space that we currently have, but also with the future in mind as to remodeling that current space into a format that may allow us to add on in the future. So that's where we're at when I left. I guess I'm assuming that's kind of what we're still at.
Yeah, the big issue for us was the contract that's been received did not include an owner's approval clause. So that whatever initial sketches that gave us, we could so we talked to them and they corrected that. Put a second clause in that allows us to say, well, we'd like to not quite have it this way, but maybe a little bit have this way, just in case our original communications. So we're quite happy with what we have.
Okay.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve and sign the contract with GSG Architects for the Powell Library.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There we go.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Love this kind of business.
I do too.
I'm
I do too. You didn't use up all your time. You don't have to.
Well, they use it.
Sure, I can take it.
Thanks, Karen. Oh, is it public yet?
Yeah.
Who you chose for a new member?
Yes, all fees.
Thanks.
Made the decision earlier today.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
See y'all.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Karen. Okay. Business of today, I entertain a motion to take a session.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Shut it off. We're done.